Most people think growth is about doing more. It's not. Real exponential growth comes from simplifying things and doing fewer things but better. This is the essence of essentialism. Less but better. Why less? Because today we are really flooded, I would say, with infinite choices. And the more distracted we get, the less quality time we can allocate to each one of those distractions, if you want. And it also talks about our implicit lack of priorities. If we assign our energy and attention to everything just because it's new and it's shiny, then it means that we don't really know what we want. We don't really know how to prioritize things that we deal with in our daily life. And it inevitably leads to a chaotic living. Accumulating things is the default way of doing things. As we progress through life, if we don't pay attention in real time to things that enter in our life automatically, mostly objects and possessions and social dynamics, which compound in terms of complexity as we go along, if we don't pay attention to curate all these things in a way that makes us happy living our life day by day, then we inevitably degrade our life quality. So I would argue that the most important thing we can do these days is to pay attention to what are those specific activities in the day that we can prioritize so that we are always living in alignment with our values. Which goals should we set so that by pursuing them, we get to execute on our purpose? We get to do the things which intrinsically give us joy. And I think having all sorts of distractions is a symptom of not having clear priorities in the end. Because everything looks interesting if you don't know what you're interested in the first place. And today, algorithms become very capable of giving you all sorts of interesting distractions. So if we don't cultivate this agency in this period, in these upcoming years, it will be more and more difficult to claim back control and actually be able to determine the kind of things that we want to, to see in our lives, that we want to be fed with from the world. And there is no one's responsibility to define that for us. Again, we are creatures with limited energy. Each day we get renewed energy and we get to allocate it to things which give us something in return. And even if it's work, the work must be rewarding intrinsically, even if it contains bouts of, let's say, painful moments, activities that we really don't look up to engage in day by day necessarily. At the end of the day, it's still our responsibility to choose what we want to allocate energy into, right? What matters most to us. Um, and I think an important aspect here to think of is what are we willing to sacrifice? Because there are a lot of things that we get familiar with throughout time for years and we get to enjoy doing them. But at some point, something must give. If we really want to become a certain person and we want to live a certain life, that life cannot accommodate all the distractions and all the activities that we are used to doing today. And a sacrifice, it's an interesting word. It's an interesting concept. I thought a lot about it during the past years, and I changed a bit how I look at it, in the sense that for a long period I thought that sacrificing is is not something that you would like to do because it builds resentment. But that's only the case if you do it for other people. But if you do it for your future self, for yourself, for your own becoming, I think that's actually a healthy thing. Because sacrificing means you are willing to give something that you care about in exchange for something that you care about more. Um, you are willing to trade current pleasures and activities that make you happy for work that works on you, so that you can become the type of person who ultimately will be grateful for the sacrifice that you are doing today. And the sacrifice must be painful. You cannot just give up on doing things that you can easily renounce. You have to give up things that are painful. Hobbies, friends, going out in the city, partying. A life worth living requires you to take hard choices, requires you to make this kind of sacrifices. And again, you don't do it for others, you do it for you. You do it for others indirectly, because ultimately people will benefit from you becoming a better version of yourself. And that's an important distinction, right? Because the resentment from sacrificing for others come from not receiving anything in return. But when you sacrifice for your future self, when you trade today something easy to do, enjoyable, pleasurable, for the work that it's not glamorous, that it's maybe boring, that it's not very exciting necessarily, but you know that you need it in order to grow into the person that you want to grow into. This kind of sacrifice is the price ultimately that you have to pay today, so that your future self will get to meet you with a smile on his face, or on her face, right? You will get to meet your future self a few years from now, and he or she will look at you in the mirror and will smile and will be grateful for all the effort that you put in today and tomorrow, and all the things that you renounced along the way, for allowing him to experience an amazing life. So if you look at sacrifice from this angle, that's a precious thing. It's it's a gift ultimately that you make to your future self. And it's easy to see that a sacrifice has immediate positive returns based on how you feel about it. You you will feel that it's hard. At the same time, you know deep down that it's the best decision. It's a better choice. In my case, I am willing to sacrifice going out, spending a lot of time with friends, outside, hobbies in general, and I want to focus exclusively on work, on building my own coaching practice, on helping people transform their lives, and guiding them to live fulfilling lives in the present moment, not discounting their current life for future ideal versions, in pursuit of the goal, but getting to the goal by being truthful to themselves and living a fulfilling life day by day. This is what I am doing, and this is what I would like also others, I would like to inspire others to do. So work, family, like my core family, my spouse and my 2 kids, and my health. These are the three things that I care about in the upcoming years, I would say, at least 3 years, in the detriment of everything else. These three exclusively are my core focus now. And everything else is not important that much for me. Not that I don't care, but I'm willing to put in the second place, in the back seat, while I'm developing myself and stay consistent with what I know I have to do. And this is so gratifying because once you simplify your life, you can also amplify it. If you have fewer things that take ownership of your mind space, if you have only 2 or 3 things that you care about really in your life, then there are very few distractions. There are very few things that you allocate energy to. You don't think about all the stupid things that steal your energy in the background because there are just, things that happen, and you try to manage everything at once and it doesn't work. I consciously decide to think and do only that which is in line with how I prioritize my life, because I know that these elements are what I value at this point, and by doing things related to the elements in my life that I value, implicitly I will have a fulfilling life. And I also advise you to check in with yourself. If you feel that something is not good, and typically you feel internally some sort of an emotional tension when there is a lot of distraction in your life, when there are a lot of elements that take your attention into all sorts of places, you need some sort of a reset. You need some sort of a recalibration because your energy is limited and there are infinite distractions. There are infinite ways in which you can waste time. And that time is not recoverable. You cannot have a second chance at living today in order to ultimately give you something in return 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years from now. You want to invest in your future self by living today the kind of life that you will be proud that you had lived when you look back 5 years from now. And this should not be a punishment. This should be something that you should be grateful for. This kind of legacy that you are building for your future self and for your family, this is something that, this is the gift. This is what I am personally grateful for being able to do. I don't feel bad for not going in the city and going out all day long or having drinks once a week or once a month even. I don't really care about that anymore. And you shouldn't care either if that's not important to you. These kind of social pressures, it's your responsibility to mitigate them and be truthful only to your goal. Only care about what you want to achieve, not what other people want from you, right? Because you only need around you people that support you, that trust you, that care about you, and that know that you have good intentions. If they don't support you, then you don't have to be that upset ultimately, because it means that they really are not interested to understand you enough and support you enough. So maybe it's not worth paying a lot of attention to what others think or feel, right? Be truthful to yourself. Know what's worth for you to achieve and dedicate yourself to that. Because what matters most in this life is to minimize future regrets. You don't want to end up in a situation where you look back and regret not making of your life a better story to tell. Not making out of your years something that you should be proud of reflecting on when you are in old age. So simplify. If you simplify, you will only remain with a few things that will make everything easier for you. Life will be much simpler by nature, by its nature. You will filter everything against those few priorities that you have and discard everything else and only focus on what matters most. And what matters most is also the most fulfilling thing to you. So implicitly, by simplifying, you get ultimately to maximize the joy that you get out of every day, simply because most of your effort is consciously allocated to those things that make you happy. And you get happiness as a byproduct of you acting and behaving in alignment with your values, right? You don't get happiness by chasing happiness. You get happiness by living your life in a way that makes you feel good, and you just go with the flow, let's say. Yeah, everything gets aligned and you live an aligned life by simply allocating time to what matters most to you. So simplify to amplify. Good luck.